Well, we are in the book of Revelation. We have set out on this endeavor quite a while ago. And we're almost to the second coming of Jesus Christ. And there's still some time for him to come back before we actually get there. But so far in the book of Revelation, chapter 1, John sees a vision of Jesus, the glorified, risen Jesus, and he gives us a description of what he sees. Then John is taken in the Spirit, and he's taken into heaven, and he sees a vision of the heavenly things. He sees the throne room of God. He describes with great detail what is in the throne room and what is happening in the throne room. It's worship. And then he describes for us his vision of the seven seals, the seven trumpets, and the seven bold judgments of God. And now John is going to describe for us something that he sees again. What's amazing about this vision that John's going to see and we're going to look at is, if you've read through the book of Revelation with me, you realize that John's seen an awful lot of things. I mean, he's seen the glorified, risen Jesus. He's seen the throne room of God. He's seen the complete judgment of God upon planet Earth. And now he sees something that we're told, John says, he just stood in amazement. And now this is interesting, because when you take into consideration all that John's seen, it would have been okay to say John stood in amazement when he saw the glorified, risen Jesus Christ before him, wouldn't it? It would have been completely fitting for John to say, I stood in amazement when I saw the throne room of God, the Father sitting on the throne, the 24 elders on 24 thrones around this throne, the four living creatures, and all the worship that's going on. It would have been perfectly appropriate for John to say, I stood in amazement, but he doesn't say that. It would have been appropriate for John to say, I stood in amazement when he sees the seal judgments come out, the trumpet judgments happen, and the bowl judgments happen, and the devastation they bring upon mankind and mankind's resistance to wanting to repent and turn to God. It would have been completely appropriate for John to say, I stood in amazement. But now John today sees something that we're told he just marvels in amazement. John sees the judgment of the harlot, the woman who rides the beast. John is going to be taken into the wilderness, where he's going to see a woman clothed in scarlet and in purple. She's going to be adorned with pearls and precious stones and gold. She is going to be seated on a beast that has 7 heads and 10 horns. And he's going to go, wow. And when we look at and begin to understand what John sees and the significance of it, it's easy for any human being to go, wow. And when we look at in totality what John's seen, and we see in our lifetime these things, the political movement, the religious movements of today, the hatred towards those who want to follow Jesus today, when we see these things becoming a global unification, it can cause us to go, wow. But as we go through and as we look at this today, I want to keep three things in mind. When we take the book of Revelation in its totality, even though this world looks like it's going to completely come in full power and just dominate the planet and the one world government and all its power and all its glory that's going to come, God is still almighty. Even though this world is going to reject any type of truth that you and I have to offer, God's truth is still unchanging. And no matter how bad the hatred gets, and no matter how bad the heat gets turned up, God will still be faithful to his people. So keep these things in mind as we read through Revelation chapter 17. And I think we can find great encouragement here. John says in verse 1 of chapter 17, "Then one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came and talked with me." And remember, this is right off the heels of the completion of the seven bowls of God being poured out. So one of those angels comes to John, talks with him, saying, he says, "Come and I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth were made to drink of the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet. She was adorned with gold, precious stones, and pearls, and having in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And on her forehead a name was written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth." John says, "I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I marveled with great amazement. But the angel said to me, 'John, why do you marvel? I'll tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carries her, which has the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast you saw was and is not, and will ascend out of the bottomless pit and go to perdition. And those who dwell on the earth will marvel, whose names are not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world. And when they see the beast that was and is not and yet is. Here is a mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are the 7 mountains on which the woman sits. There are also 7 kings. 5 have fallen, and 1 is, and the other is yet to come. And when he comes, he must continue a short time. The beast that was and is not is himself also the 8th, and is of the 7th, and is going to perdition. The 7 horns which you saw are the 10 kings who have received no kingdom as yet, but they receive authority for 1 hour as kings with the beast. These are of one mind, and they will give their power and authority to the beast. These will make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings. And those who are with him are called, chosen, and faithful. And then he said to me, the waters you saw where the harlot sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. the 10 horns which you saw on the beast, these will hate the harlot, make her desolate and naked, eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. For God has put into their hearts to fulfill his purpose, to be of one mind, and to give their kingdom to the beast, until the words of God are fulfilled. And the woman whom you saw is that great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. John here sees this sign of the woman who's riding the beast. He stands and marvels in amazement, and I am so glad the angel's there with him. Because we're not left to our own devices, our own understanding, to interpret what these things mean. Because if he did not give us what these things meant, can you imagine what would be written today about this? And what's kind of funny is, even in light of the rest of the chapter after John's vision, it's amazing, even though this is written, what man kind of puts in place of what John sees here. Be very careful. We are given exact detail as to what John is seeing. Now, so far through the book of Revelation, these characters, these descriptions have been kind of like breadcrumbs for us along the way. As we've gone through chapter by chapter, we were introduced to this beast that comes out of the bottomless pit, who's going to make war against the saints. We've seen the description of this beast that ascends out of the bottomless pit, that has 7 heads and 10 horns. This is not anything new for us. And so what we have today is the entirety of what John is seeing. Now, long story short, what John's seeing is what we are seeing today. This movement going to a one world religious system. A movement going towards a one world governmental system. And a popular movement that's growing leaps and bounds in some countries, and that is the persecution of God's people. One of the things that I find that I believe John stands in amazement here when he sees this woman who's riding the beast is the power that this woman and the beast possess causes him to stand in amazement. We're told that this woman that rides the beast sits on many waters. Okay? Now, we just read through. I'm going to test you. You didn't know there was going to be a quiz. I'm going to test you. What are the waters that the woman sits on? We read it. The peoples, nations, and tongues. See? You're catching on. It's all here. And so this woman that's riding the beast possesses great power. Great power. We are living in a day and age that is unlike any other. Because this beast with the 10 horns and 7 heads, it's coming back into existence. Remember back when we looked at the woman and the male child? Now this is a different woman. This is Israel giving birth to the male child. And then there was this red dragon. And how did John describe this red dragon? This red dragon was with 7 heads and 10 horns. And we went back and we looked at Daniel's vision. Well, actually, it wasn't Daniel's vision. It was Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Remember Nebuchadnezzar's dream? He has a dream one night and it just totally freaks him out. Okay? And he keeps his dream a secret. He calls all of the soothsayers and magicians and dreamers or whatever they were, and he gathers all the spiritually elite people in his group, and he says, look, guys, I've had a dream, and I want you to interpret the dream. And everybody in the group goes, great. Interpretation's coming. Just tell us what the dream is. And Nebuchadnezzar says, no, it's not going to work that way. You see, I want to know what you're telling me is true. You're not just telling me what you think I want to hear. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to play a little game, truth. You're going to tell me the truth. And if you don't, you're going to die. And I'm going to know that you're telling me the truth because you're going to know what my dream was, even though I didn't tell you what my dream was. How's that? Nobody can produce their dream. And he goes, off with your head. So the decree goes out. Everybody's head's dropping. And it comes to Daniel, and Daniel finds out, goes, whoa, time out, wait a minute. And so Daniel and his buddies go and pray. And he asks, hey, can I come before Nebuchadnezzar? And he stands before Nebuchadnezzar and says, look, my God has given me your dream, but not only let me know what your dream was, he's given me the interpretation of your dream. And Daniel tells him what it is. And it was a statue. You remember the statue of him, and it has the head, and then the chest, and the arms, and the belly, and thighs, and the legs, and then the feet and the 10 toes. And how each one of those segments had a different metal associated with it. In other words, it was going to start out with a great and glorious type of power. Gold, the head. And the head of gold was Nebuchadnezzar. It was you, Nebuchadnezzar. There's no one going to be like you. As far as the kingdom among men, you're the head. And then we've got the silver, the chest, and the arms, and then the belly. And we've seen how it was the succession of the kingdoms that came from Nebuchadnezzar. And we've seen how all of those kingdoms have come to pass. But yet there's one last kingdom that is yet to be fulfilled. And that's the one, the feet with the 10 toes, the iron mixed with clay. It's a fascinating read. Go back to Daniel chapter 2 and read it. It ties in with this 7 heads and 10 horns. The connection is the number 10. And that we believe that there is going to be a revised Roman Empire in our day that is going to come and facilitate this one world dominating power among the kingdom of men. And this beast that comes out of this kingdom of 10 kings, the revised Roman Empire, is going to be the Antichrist. And we're told that this Antichrist is going to come into power. And he's going to, he's going to display such power that the men and women who dwell on this earth during this time, and when this kingdom is reigning, they're going to make the proclamation. It's already been said in Revelation. They're going to make this proclamation. Who is like the beast? Who is going to make war with the beast? They're going to have the knowledge of all history, and they're going to look at this thing and they're going to go, wow, who is like him? Who can make war with him? You know that he's going to have power. And it's going to be easy for people on earth to go, what is there left to do? But I remind you, back in the book of Daniel, you see, Nebuchadnezzar, after he had this dream, he's like, okay, I understand that at the very end, the tail end of my dream, I believe what really shocked him was when he saw the statue, and I'm sure he's kind of amazed by this statue. he sees this rock. Daniel describes in Nebuchadnezzar's dream, he says, you saw this statue made by man. You saw this statue, and you're the head, and you saw the feet and all that. It's standing up in its glory. But there's something else out there that's going to happen. There's going to be a rock that is going to be carved without hands. And it's going to come, and it's going to utterly destroy this statue, smash it into pieces. And Daniel says that's the kingdom of God. God is yet more powerful than any type of kingdom that man is going to bring about. So what does Nebuchadnezzar do? He makes a statue, right? He makes a statue. I'm pretty sure that he made this statue of all gold, so that it's signifying that it's going to be my kingdom that rules. And then his guys get this idea. Okay, here, King Almighty, let's make a decree that when the harpists play and the music happens, that all of your people who are subject to you in your kingdom will bow down and worship this statue. A great idea. I wish I had that myself. I just wish I could have been there, because, they're puffing up the king. It's just like going on with it. But it was all about the revelation of 3 young men, wasn't it? They refused to bow down and worship this statue. Word comes, hey, Nebuchadnezzar, we got 3 guys from Israel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They're not bowing down to your statue. They ain't having nothing of it. So he goes, okay, bring him to me. And then he says, turn up the oven 7 times hotter. And Nebuchadnezzar actually gives them the ability, look, I understand you guys are young and dumb. Okay, but you don't understand my power here. I've got the power to take your life. Just bow down and worship when you hear this music. And what do they say? Forget you. Our God is able to deliver us, and if he doesn't, just know that our God is true. And so what happens? They throw him in the fire. And Nebuchadnezzar goes, 1, 2, 3. Hey, 4. Didn't we put 3 in? And then we're told there was 1 in there, like the Son of God. God's power was displayed even in the face of Nebuchadnezzar's power. God's saying, look, I am more powerful. It was even displayed with Daniel. And you know the book, you know the Bible. It's there, man. It's all there. But yet, when John goes and he sees this woman and the beast, he's like, wow. We need to be reminded that, you know what? God is still all-powerful. He is still almighty. And no matter what happens or what comes in our life, that is going to be found to be true. Now, another thing, aside from the power that this woman and the beast is displaying, John is caught by the idea that this woman, and particularly the woman, is a prostitute. He says to her, or not to her, but he describes her as a what? Great harlot. He says the kings of this earth commit what? Fornication with her. The inhabitants of the earth are made to drink of the wine of her what? Fornication. He describes her adornment, how she's arrayed, and then he goes, oh, by the way, there's a name written on her forehead, and it was the name of the mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of who? Harlots. And of the bum. Do you kind of get the idea what John's trying to say? Is this thing is illicit. She is going to be a prostitute. Now, at this point in time, be very careful. There's lots of books out there that paint the Roman Catholic Church as this prostitute. I believe that she'll be part of it, but I think it's going to be much bigger than the Roman Catholic Church. But before we get there, this idea of harlot, this idea of fornication, these are all relational types of terminology, isn't it? I mean, are you tracking with me? I mean, these all are kind of describing relational connections. Realize you're in school. We're fearfully and